I am Lawrence Holmes Jr., an epigenomist that directs epigenomic program at the Nemours Institute for Children, especially when it has to do with racial disparities in outcomes, implying socio-epigenomics. The process upon which this program became known is the fact that outcomes of care, such as malignancies, tend to vary a great deal. I also teach clinical trials and molecular epidemiology at the University of Delaware. So given this background here, it is essential to realize that the disparities in health outcomes is not driven by the genetic variability, but by epigenomic changes. Especially, epigenomic changes reflects the gene and environment interaction that predispose to the changes in the way the body responds to cellular injury or damages. In this process here, we conducted a study to determine whether or not stressful environments such as isolation, such as racial discrimination, such as difficulties could signal the changes within the gene and environment interaction. What we wanted to see was to find out whether the epigenomic studies that identify the biomarkers of hypertension in the first place could link these biomarkers to the gene that regulate them. We identified what is called the TLR gene, which basically is a pro-inflammatory gene. The elaboration of this gene here will lead to the accumulation of inflammation in the blood vessels that leads to arteriosclerosis and the subsequent development of hypertension due to peripheral resistance. So we also identify what is called angiotensin converting enzyme gene. Hypertension occurs as a result of vasoconstriction. So vasoconstriction here is what narrows the blood vessels, and when it constricts, the flow to the blood becomes an obstacle that creates what is called the peripheral resistance. So the function of this gene here allows angiotensin 1, which is a pro-constrictor, to angiotensin 2, which is an active vasoconstrictor. We identified this here. So we also identified interferon gamma gene. An interferon gamma gene is a gene that regulates inflammatory process with respect to viral infections. So the body responses to insult by elaboration of this interferon. But when the inflammation becomes quite chronic, the negative feedback mechanism no longer supports the function of this gene. In this study here, the hypermethylation, implying that the methyl group is linked to the CPG region of the gene promoter region within the DNA. So this linkage here results in the blocking or the inhibition of the transcription factor. A transcription factor is what is needed for a gene to be able to express itself. So the inhibition of this transcription factor results in inhibition of the gene expression. When a gene is not being expressed, that results in what? An abnormal protein synthesis that affects cellular function.